All right. Y'all ready to go? Y'all ready to roll up in here? Okay. Look, I'm ready to jump in, guys. What we got? It's 11 o'clock on the dot. All right, guys. Here we go. Super excited to be here today, guys. And good to see y'all. And it's always a blessing to be here at Coast City with y'all, spending some time in worship, spending some time in God's Word and prayer. I look forward to Sunday every single week. We're a year in, and it still hasn't gotten old. I mean, it's amazing. I will say I had to go to the back and get some coffee today because I was just feeling it. I think it's the weather. I think the weather's just got me. But, man, it is good to be here. And we're gonna talk. You know what? We're gonna continue in our sermon series, which is called Why Not? But before we do, I just want to let y'all know we've made some changes. Hopefully, I haven't checked it. Haven't gone online and checked it yet, but we've made some changes to our live stream. For the past year, we have exclusively live streamed just on Facebook, which has been good for us. But we are attempting to live stream to both Facebook and YouTube at the same time. Now, I'm no rocket scientist, okay? And I know that we just sent some people around the moon. But as far as I'm concerned, that little bit of it, doing that, it's the same thing to me. Okay, it's tough. And I'm just got my fingers crossed that it's working. But the reason for that is we have people every week who join us online. And some of those people are people who come on a regular basis, but maybe they can't come on Sunday morning or whatever it is. But we have people from all over the place who like to join us online. And you know what? I like to know that those people are being taken care of and that they have options. And when it's just on Facebook, you're just kind of stuck on your phone on that little bitty screen. When it's on YouTube, I mean, that opens a door of possibilities. You could, if you're stuck on the couch that week, you can pull it up on your TV and you can watch it on the big screen TV. And I think that's just a really cool thing. And I want the people who join us online to know that they're part of the family. We think about them and we think about their experience because it matters and they matter. And so, we're just excited about that. At least I am. I don't know. But it's working. It's working, guys. I mean, I don't know why that was so exciting, but it was. That's it. It's actually, you know what, we won't get into big details. There's a whole younger demographic that uses YouTube exclusively. And so I'm just glad we're just breaking into that, maybe reaching some new people. It's going to be really cool. But we are going into our second week of Why Not. Why not? Last week we talked about why not you. We talked about how you have a purpose. Like if you have trusted Jesus and you have been, you're part of God's family. You're a son. You're a daughter of God. It's not a matter of if you have a calling on your life. Like you do have a calling on your life. Like he hasn't just saved you from sin, but he has called you into a purpose. He has called you into meaning, and you have a calling on your life. And it may not be pastor, it may not be missionary, it may not be Sunday school teacher, but I guarantee you that there is someone in your life that God has said, you know what, I bet I'm going to use you to reach that person. And it may be someone you never actually talked to, believe it or not. It may be someone that is watching from a distance. Maybe someone who is, maybe they see you at the grocery store and something about you, they hear over here. One time I was on the phone with, this is not part of the sermon, who knows if we'll get to it. But I was on the phone with someone and I didn't know that someone was eavesdropping. And after I got off the phone, they came up to me and they said, hey, I was eavesdropping and I noticed that you were talking a lot about church. You're talking a lot about Jesus. Can you tell me more about what church you go to, what in all this? Like, I had no idea that this person was even listening. And that's why it's so important. Whenever it says, always be ready to give an answer, I think that you just never know who's listening. You never know who's watching. And that's why it's so important as followers of Jesus to be living that life day in, day out, because you never know when you're having an impact. And your calling is to be an ambassador of Christ. It is to point to Jesus and say, look, whatever it is that's going on in your life, Jesus is the answer. You need forgiveness of sin, it's Jesus. You need reconciliation, it's Jesus. You have trust issues, you need to talk to Jesus. If you have church hurt, you need to talk to Jesus. You're going through problems in your marriage, you need to talk to Jesus. Like, we are constantly the ambassadors of Christ, pointing people to him. And so why not you? We bring up a lot of excuses as why God can't use me. And God's like, hey, it's not based on your limitations. Thank God, because this church would not have made it a year. I guarantee you that. But it's not based on your limitation. It is based on how God wants to use you and your willingness to say yes. And so we just need to be available. And God will use you. He will take you one step of the way and put you exactly where you need to be. Anyways, didn't mean to recap the whole entire sermon, but it's important because it gets us to today, okay? So we're talking about why not in our sermon series. I had thought about this whole week. And one thing I've been thinking about is we talk about step of faith a lot. If you've been around church, many times you'll hear the phrase, just a step of faith. And as I was just kind of thinking about it this week and just kind of meditating on that, I kind of realized this, is that taking a step of faith isn't just a one-time decision. It's you deciding to go a certain direction. I'm not going to just decide to do this now and forget about it tomorrow. Like, I'm going to take this step of faith, and it's setting the course in a specific direction. Like, it's the direction of like, okay, I can take the step of faith now and just believe, okay, maybe in this scenario, like, I think that God can use me. But when it's a direction, it's I'm going to live my life believing and acting on the fact that I believe that God can use me and God can use my situation. And so I'm going to continue in that direction. I'm going to take that step of faith. And we make up all kinds of excuses why we don't want to take that step. But I want to remind us of our theme verse for this series, which is 1 Corinthians chapter 1. It says, remember, dear brothers and sisters, that few of you were wise in the world's eyes or powerful or wealthy when God called you. Let's see, I don't fall into really any of those categories, but I get the idea here. Instead, God chose the things the world considers foolish in order to shame those who think they are wise. And he chose things that are powerless, there's me, there we go, to shame those who are powerful. God chose things despised by the world, things counted as nothing at all, and used them to bring to nothing what the world considers important. As a result, no one can ever boast in the presence of God. Man, when God moves in your life and he moves through your life, man, if we do it right, we can't point to ourselves. If we do it right, the only thing that we can say is, man, I just trusted God with it and God did it. God did the whole thing. He led me here. He gave me the words to speak. He spoke and, told me what I need to do. Like, it's all God. And it has nothing to do with my seniority. It has nothing to do with my power. It has nothing to do with my money. It has nothing to do with whatever. But it's all because I've surrendered my life to God, and I've chosen to go this direction where I don't trust in myself. I'm trusting in him. And so why not you today? We are talking about why not now? Why not this moment in your life? You ever had a day that you would call just a wash day? Like, today's just been a wash. You wake up and you have good intentions. Maybe you even made a list. Maybe. And you're like, I've got things to do today. I've got errands to run. I got things to do. I got people to see. And you just wake up super motivated and you're like, I'm going to knock this out. And then like the day just hits you in the face. Like things that you did not expect just kind of comes at you. And like the day just, okay, you're like, all right, I can handle that. But then another thing happens, another day happens. And if you look at your list, it's the end of the day and you've got nothing done. And you just kind of like, okay, whatever. Like today's just been what? It's just been a wash. Like it's just, I'll just go to sleep. Like forget my list. I'll just go to sleep. I'll try again tomorrow. Today's just been a total wash. Y'all ever have a day like that? Yeah, okay. Some of you are like, today, that's me right now. like it's just been a total wash. Have you ever thought about and considered the fact that God's never had one of those days? God's never got to the end of a day and said, well, that whole thing was a waste of my time. Like that whole thing was a wash. Like God doesn't know what that is. And that is amazing to me. And I think that, as Christians, as good Christians, we know in our hearts that, man, even if the day doesn't go the way I thought it would, even when the situation doesn't meet my expectations, I'm just believing in Romans 8, right? I'm just believing that, God's going to make all things turn, like just all things good to those who love him, right? Like I'm just believing in that. Like today's not going to be a wash. God's going to bring something good out of this. As good Christians, we know that. As humans, there's another side to us. This side of us that says, look, I know that there have been seasons in my life when whatever I'm going through has felt like the exception to that. Like I know he can turn all things good. But man, what I'm experiencing, what I'm feeling right now in this moment feels like I'm the exception. It just feels like God isn't really doing that in my life. I think if we're just vulnerable, I think if we are being honest, we can all say we've been there. We all know what that feels like. And I don't know whatever that thing is. Maybe it's something that happened in the past. Maybe it's something that's happening in the present. Maybe it's something that you're just looking towards in the future and you're looking at it with dread. But whatever that thing is, you're just like, that thing's a whole wash. Like it's just bad. And there's nothing good ever going to come out of it. It's just altogether bad. There's no hope for it. I have those things in my life. And it's that tension of knowing and trusting God that he's working all things together for good to those who love him. And I love him. But hey, I'm just being honest. Like I'm in the middle of this and it doesn't feel like it's working all together for good. Okay? Am I the only one who ever feels that way? Okay? All right. Just making sure. Because if so, I need to do some checkup, soul checkup. Okay? But that can be a real struggle. That tension can be a real struggle for our faith. Because ultimately what it leads to is, whether past, present, or future, it leads to the question, where was God? Where is God? Why is he letting this happen? Where is he now? Why isn't he showing up? Where is he at? And that can be a real struggle for us, especially whenever we think about, we hear stories of faith in the Bible. I talk about them all the time, but, we think about Moses. And we think about how the story of Moses, where God just shows up in such miraculous ways. And, from rescuing him from the Nile River to the burning bush. Like, that's crazy. And then to rescue the people out of Egypt, like God just shows up in a huge way 10 times with these plagues and just casts judgment on Israel, but in doing so brings redemption and rescue to his people. And then it doesn't end there. Like they get to a mountain, there's thunder, there's clouds, there's lightning, and then Moses brings down these 10 commandments. Like just God shows up in such a monstrous, huge, obvious way that it's undeniable that God has been working and that God has done something amazing. And you end up with verses like this in Exodus chapter 14 that just kind of sums up the whole thing. That says, that day the Lord saved Israel from the hands of the Egyptians. And Israel saw the Egyptians lying dead on the shore. And when the Israelites saw the mighty hand of the Lord displayed against the Egyptians, the people feared the Lord and put their trust in him and in Moses, his servant. I mean, what a way to bookend a story. And I think about my own life. I think about the things that I'm struggling with. I think about the things that I'm facing. I think about the things that I'm going to face. And I'm like, at the end of those stories, I want this to be how it ends. That I can turn around and say, that day, God moved in Sean's life. And he did something amazing. And everyone saw it. And everyone believed in God. Like, that's how I want my story to go. That's how I want to bookend it. But let's be honest. We all have stories where it doesn't feel like that's how it ends. Like that's how Moses' story was bookended. But man, I got things in my life where it's like I'm still waiting for that verse. I'm still looking for that verse to show up in my life. I want that Moses experience. We have doubts. We still have questions. Let's face it, we still have pain over what happened. And we just want to see God move. But this is one of the reasons why I love the book of Esther. I love that the book of Esther is included in the Bible. Because if you're looking for a verse like Exodus 14, guess what you'll find? You won't find it. Crickets. If you're looking for that moment where it says, God did this in Esther's life, you won't find it. Matter of fact, in the book of Esther, if you read it from beginning to end, you won't find God mentioned once. Now, there are some similarities here between Esther and Moses. You know, in Moses and Esther, they're both the people of Israel. They're all under imperial rule by a foreign country. They're all crying out for God for rescue. They're waiting. They're not in their homeland. Like there are these similarities between the two. But you won't find this verse, Exodus 14 and Exodus. And I'm thankful for that because not many of us have a burning bush story. I could be wrong. Have you ever looked out your front window and saw one of your bushes on fire and not burning? I don't think so. You know, not many of us have walked up to a sea and watched the whole thing just part. You know, not many of us have seen the 10 plagues just cast judgment all on our enemies. Like, I love the story of Moses. I can't say that I can relate to every aspect of it. But man, can I relate to the story of Esther. Where there are times where I'm going through something, I'm going through trials, I'm going through tribulations, and it just feels like silence. That God's not moving. There is no forward motion. I'm just stuck. And y'all feeling that? So where is God in my story? Where is he at? When's he going to show up? And it's just silence. But man, Esther teaches us something very important. That even when we can't see him move, even when we can't feel him move, even when it's not obvious, even when it seems like God is the most hidden thing in the universe, we can trust, we can believe, we can take that step of faith in that direction in knowing that God is still working, that God is still protecting, that God is still providing, and God is still delivering his people even in the silence. I love Esther for this reason. And then I'm just going to give a quick summary of Esther. Maybe you've never heard the story before. But there are 4 people in Esther that you really need to know about. 4 major players. You have the king, you have Esther, and you have Mordecai and Haman. You need to know who these people are because they're big players in this story. The king is obviously the king. Okay, Esther is nobody at first. But she becomes queen. Mordecai is her cousin, but also the one who is caring for her, watching after her. It's her caretaker. It is her guardian, Mordecai, and there's Haman. He is the bad guy in this story. He's the villain in this story, and he's really not a great guy. But these are the 4 people that you need to know about. And it starts with the king here, and he is, well, he he gets upset because his current queen embarrasses him. His current queen, when he says to come, she doesn't come, and she embarrasses him in front of all his friends, in front of all his dignitaries, in front of everybody, and he gets so mad that he says, I don't want her as queen anymore. I'm banishing her from the kingdom. She'll never step foot in front of me anymore. And he gets so angry that him and his men, they get so mad that they put a decree together that we're going to not just punish the queen, we're going to punish all the women in the kingdom. I wanted to stop here. This is really not part of the sermon, but I just wanted to stop here and camp for just a second, because it leads up to this decree that goes throughout to the entire kingdom. And it says the king sent letters to all the royal provinces, to each province in its own script, and to each ethnic group in its own language, that every man should be master of his own house and speak in the language of his own people. And the reason why I wanted to just stop here just for a second is because this is very much in our culture what is expected. I'm the man of my house. I can do what I want. I can say what I want. I'm going to lord over my people. Like, this is just what is elevated. This is what is celebrated in our culture. And I just want to point out to the fact that this decree, this direction, was put together by a group of angry men who are mad and upset and embarrassed. I think it's just, I'm talking to the men. Ladies, y'all can just sit there and just say amen. Like men, you are head of your house. But you're not Lord of your house. There's only one Lord of your house, and that's Jesus. Matter of fact, in Ephesians chapter 5, it says that men, you are to love your wives as Christ loved the church. How did he love the church? Self-sacrifice. He gave himself for the church. It says that he had every right to come and lord over the people. I'm God, I can do what I want. But it says that he came in the form of a servant. Yeah. And so, men, I'm just encouraging you, look, this right here is not the example to lord over your house. The example is Jesus Christ himself, who loved his church so much that he came in the form of the servant to serve it, to love it, to care for it, to protect it. This is the Jesus way. And it contradicts the world's way. We're supposed to be head of our house, but not the Lord of the house. You're welcome, men. That was also for me. Ladies, y'all can hold them to it. Amen. Here we go. I forgot where I was going. Anyways, so the king gets rid of his queen, and he holds basically the bachelor in Persia. Okay, he's the most eligible bachelor in the kingdom, and he brings in all the beautiful ladies to his palace, and he's going to pick a new queen. Long story short, after about a year of going through the process, he picks Esther. Now, Esther is going to become the new queen, but one thing that she doesn't mention, she keeps a secret, is her ethnicity. She tells no one, under the guidance of her cousin Mordecai, she tells no one that she's Jewish. That's important. She keeps that hidden to herself, and she becomes the new queen. Now, that seems like a good thing, but things take a turn for the worse. Because immediately after that, our man Haman, who's the bad guy, y'all remember him, he gets a promotion. And he becomes basically top-ranking official in the entire kingdom. And the man knows it. The man, he starts parading through the city, and he's making people bow down to him as he's going through to show him honor and respect that he is worthy of. But as he's going through the kingdom, there's one guy who will not bow down to him. That's Mordecai. Mordecai's like, I ain't playing that game. I only bow down to one. Like, you expect me to worship you? And we know Haman. Haman didn't want just honor. Haman was narcissist, full of himself. He wanted to be worshiped 100%. And Mordecai's like, you know what? I only worship one. That's God himself. I'm not bound down to you. And what a great reminder that we don't always get to pick the situations where we have to take a stand. We don't always get the chance to pick, hey, when do I have to make hard decisions? But we do get the chance to decide how we respond to these things. And so Mordecai, he responds with, I'm going to do the right thing. I'm not going to bow down to this guy. And obviously, when when Haman sees that, Haman gets blistering upset. He gets furious, and he wants to have payback against Mordecai. But he is so angry. He is so upset. His pride is so hurt that he has decided that it's not enough to just destroy Mordecai. I have to destroy all of Mordecai's people. I have to destroy all the Jews. And so Mordecai puts this plan together, and he starts lying about the Jewish people, saying that they are going behind the king's back, that they're revolting, they're spreading lies about the king. And so Haman goes to the king and says all these things. He starts spewing these lies, and the king's like, well, we can't have that happening. And Haman's like, well, I've got an idea. Let's just get rid of them. Let's just wipe them out, and they won't be a problem anymore. And the king's like, fine, do it. And it says that Haman, he took some lots, maybe today we would roll some dice. Not sure what it would have been at that time, but maybe draw straws. Whatever it is, the randomness of it, that he took some lots and he threw them out in order to pick the day of the Jewish destruction. And it came out to be March 7th, about a year from that point. And so the king put out a decree saying, hey, on that day, if you find a Jewish person, you just wipe them out and you can keep all their stuff. We're going to purge the kingdom of these lying, revolting people. We're going to take them out. And so this day is looming around the kingdom. And as you can imagine, if you were Jewish at the time, that you're looking a year out and you're like, what am I going to do? You start panicking because you're a minority in the kingdom. What's going to happen to my family? What's going to happen to my friends? There's no hope for us a year from now. We can't even protect ourselves. We're doomed. There's no hope for us. Now, when Mordecai hears this, when he gets this message and he sees the decree put out, what does he do? He immediately goes and sends a message to Esther. Esther is the queen. He knows a guy. You know what I'm saying? And he sends a message to Esther. It says, Esther, you probably have no idea what's going on. But our enemy, Haman, he is fixated on destroying not just me and our family, but all the Jewish people. Like, you have to do something. You've got to step up. You got to rise to the occasion. Because if you don't, who knows what's going to happen? But Esther's reluctant. She's a little hesitant. She's like, it's been like 30 days since I've seen the king. I can't just waltz up in there. Like, I could lose my head just walking in there unannounced. Like, now's not a good time. The timing is not great. I hear you, but not now. Mordecai challenges her. This verse is well known. Mordecai told the messenger to reply to Esther, don't think that you will escape the fate of all the Jews because you are in the king's palace. What's he saying? Hey, just because you're queen doesn't mean that you're safe. If you keep silent at this time, relief and deliverance will come to the Jewish people from another place. But you and your father's family will be destroyed. Who knows? Perhaps you have come to your royal position for such a time as this. Why not now? Esther sent this reply to Mordecai: "Go and assemble all the Jews who can be found in Susa and fast for me. Don't eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I and my female servants will also fast in the same way. After that, I will go to the king, even if it's against the law. If I perish, I perish." So Mordecai went and did everything Esther had commanded him. This moment, it shows us Mordecai's basically telling her that we don't always get to choose our lot in life. We don't always get to choose the time and place when things go down. We don't always get to choose our situation that we're going through, but we do get to choose our direction. We do get to choose how we respond to this. And whenever that moment in your life comes up, you can either run from it and trust in your own limitations and in your own strength, or you can go in the direction of God on this. What I love about Mordecai in this moment is that Mordecai's faith is actually full on display on this. Mordecai says, look, you're put in a position right now where you may be able to help people. But what I love what he said was that he didn't put the whole entire weight of the world on her shoulders. He said, look, if you don't do this, deliverance will come from somewhere else. Like even in this moment, even whenever she is showing hesitation, Mordecai is still showing faith that, man, even if this doesn't go the way I want it to go, like somewhere down the line, at some point, because God is good, God is trustworthy, and he is faithful, and he has promised that some point down the line, deliverance will come from somewhere. Yeah. But maybe, just maybe you were torn from your family. Maybe you were an orphan. You were torn from your family. You were taken out of the place that loved you, and you were forced into the king's house. And maybe all of this, God is giving it a purpose. That maybe that's why you're here. Why not now? It's funny how God works, because we go through things and we experience things, and life seems unfair. It seems just like a bad luck. It just seems like everything's falling apart. It just feels like everything's a setback. You take a step forward, you take 2 steps back. Like that's how life feels sometimes. But maybe you know this. Maybe you've experienced this before. That sometimes the things that we think are unfair ends up being a blessing. That sometimes the things that we think is bad luck, we're looking back, is actually providence. That the things that we thought was a setback was actually God setting something up. That God was preparing the way for something that you couldn't see yet. And Mordecai is saying, he's calling this out in her, saying, look, what if this is the moment? What if this is the moment that God has brought you to this place, and now you have a choice? Are you going to hide it in your queen's chambers? Or are you going to take courage, and you're going to take a step towards trusting God in this? Taking a step of faith isn't always just a one-time thing. It's a direction that could change the entire course of your life. And it's like today we're challenged with the same thing. Am I going to believe in what I can just see? Am I just going to believe in what I can just feel? Or am I going to trust that even whenever God is silent, that even when it feels like God's not moving, even when it feels like everything is going in the opposite direction, am I going to trust and live my life believing that God is still moving, God is still working, God is still faithful? That's the choice that we're still we're still dealing with today. Story continues. It says that Esther goes to the king, sets up an appointment with him, says, hey, I'm going to cook you a good meal. Like, she knows. She knows the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. Some things don't change. Same thing happened with Adam. I mean, like it's just how we are, okay? She says, I'm going to cook you a good meal. And so they come to dinner, and not only does she reveal her ethnicity, not only does she reveal the whole thing of like, I'm Jewish, she reveals Haman's plan, who is in the room. Of like, this man, not only he's sought for destruction for my family, but he has sought destruction of my entire people. And he is evil, and he is being used against the people of God. And like you need to step in and do something and save my people. And the king was so furious when he found out Haman's plan that he had to walk out of the room. It says he had to walk out and catch his breath. He had to go to the garden and just take a breather because he was so furious. And he came back into the room and said, well, Haman, your days are over. You're going to be executed. And the irony is that Haman, just days before, he had set up this whole thing of how he was going to kill Mordecai. He built this huge structure. This was going to be Mordecai's downfall. And the king said, the very same thing that you built for your enemy will be used against you. The Bible teaches that it talks about how, a fool and the enemy, the pit that they dig, they will ultimately fall into their own pit. And so Haman is executed. The Jewish people are rescued. But it doesn't end there. There's something really fascinating that happens at the end of this story. Obviously, the Jewish people, they're celebrating and they're happy because, man, that day is still kind of in the future. March 7th is coming up. March 7th was supposed to be a day of destruction. It was supposed to be a day of death and hopelessness. But Esther, she puts out this whole thing. She says, look, on that very same day, the day that was supposed to represent our end, the day that was supposed to represent our destruction, well, you know what we're going to do? We're going to celebrate. And so I want everyone to recognize this day and have a feast and to have a festival. It's called the Festival of Purim. And she talks about it like this. So the Jews agreed to continue the celebration they had begun, doing what Mordecai had written to them. For Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy, I practiced that. The enemy of all the Jews had plotted against the Jews to destroy them and had cast the pur. That is the lot for their ruin and destruction. But when the plot came to the king's attention, he issued written orders that the evil scheme Haman had devised against the Jews should come back onto his own head, and that he and his sons should be impaled on poles. And that's not a great way to go. Therefore, these days were called Purim from the word pur, which means lot, because of everything written in this letter and because of what they had seen and what had happened to them. Now, I don't know if you caught this. It may not end in the same way as Exodus 14, where it says, man, God showed up. And he just moved. And he did all these amazing things. But they do recognize something here. They do recognize that the day that was meant for their destruction somehow, some way, became a day of celebration and being saved, being rescued. And they celebrate it. I heard a story once, just closing here, I heard a story once of a dad who kept a calendar to the T. Everything was on the family calendar. He kept it on the fridge. And all the children knew this. Like, this is something that you know about Dad. Like, if it's important, if it's going to happen, Dad's putting it on the calendar. And they would, every day, they would go up to the fridge and they would look at it just to kind of see what's going on this week. And one of the sons walked up to the calendar, and on that Saturday, he noticed that Dad had put something new on there. And it said shots. That got his attention. But he was so scared to ask. Like, what's this about? And for the entire week, he wakes up, and the only thing he can think about is, I'm one day closer to getting shots. He'd wake up, he'd go to bed thinking like, oh my gosh, if I sleep, the next day is just going to get here faster, and I'm just going to be one day closer to shots. And so he's just, the entire week, he is just freaking out because Saturday's getting closer. Thursday shows up, and he's getting so scared. Friday shows up, and he's like, oh my gosh, like tomorrow's the day. I'm going to the doctor. It's probably going to be the needle the size of, who knows, a broom. Like, it's going to be bad. Like, I can't, like, I'm going to hide. They won't be able to find me in the morning. And Saturday morning shows up, and Dad says, all right, everybody, let's get in the car. And this kid is just sweating bullets. And he's like, oh my gosh, like, I'm too scared to ask. And he's just in the back, he's super quiet, and he's scared. And they're going down the road, and the dad stops at a gymnasium. And the kid looks around, and he's like, this isn't the doctor's office. I'm really confused about what's happening. And so he finally gets the courage to ask his dad, what are we doing? Like, is this where I'm getting my shots? And the dad's like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, I've been worried all week because I know that you put it on the calendar. I know you're taking me to the doctor. I don't know if you're trying to trick me or something or whatever. You're just trying to, whatever. I don't know what's happening, but I'm scared and I don't want to get my shots. I'm not going. And the dad is like, dude, you're not going to the doctor. Like, shots, you're going to a basketball camp. It's called shots. And the kid was like, what? He's like, dude, you've been talking about how you want to go to a basketball camp. And so I signed you up for basketball camp this Saturday. It's called shots. And the kid was like, oh. Like, okay, I can get behind that. I wanted to tell that story because there are things in our life. I don't know if maybe it's in your past, maybe it's something you're going through right now. Maybe it's something that you're looking at in the future, and you're labeling it one way. You don't have the full picture yet. You don't see the big picture. You don't know how it's going to end. You're just looking at it, and you're like, oh, I know that's bad news. Like, I know I shouldn't look forward to that. I know that what happened to me, it defines me. It is bad. It is nothing good could ever come out of it. Or maybe we're looking to the future, and you're like, I know that this is coming down my way, and it's hard, and it's difficult, and I don't know how I'm going to get myself out of this, and there's just no hope for me. And maybe it's right now, and you're just drowning in your anxiety and worry over something because you just can't see the big picture. You don't know how you're going to come out of it. All you know is that you're just like, I don't like this. We don't always get to pick our Purim. We don't always get to pick our lots. Like, life happens. That's Bible. We don't always get to pick when those things happen to us. The timing is never right. But we do have the option. We do have the choice to let God redefine these things. We do have the option, that thing that we look at with dread in our past, for God to look at that and say, look, I know that was bad, but let me redefine this for you. Let me show you how I'm using this. Maybe it's something in our future and we're just looking at it with dread and you're like, God, I'm praying about this. I don't know how this is going to work out. I don't know how I'm going to get ahead of this. And God, help me trust you that no matter what label I put on it, no matter what label the doctor puts on it, no matter what label my friends put on it, no matter what this situation is, help me trust that ultimately you get to define if it's good or bad. Help me to trust you. And Esther shows us this amazing example of that God doesn't always show up and put on a show. He doesn't always plant a burning bush in your way. Sometimes he's leading and it feels like silence. The question that we have to ask ourselves is, am I willing to trust God? Even whenever it feels like he's not there. Am I willing to trust God that this moment that I'm going through, it's not good, but somehow, some way, God will bring good out of this? One of the things that fascinates me about Esther is that she stood up and she was brave and she was courageous. She did the right thing. But you know what? She had impacts on people that she would never meet. There's people far away in some far off land that because of what she did in that moment, they were impacted. And look, I think that when we are living our life and the situations we're going through, look, we may never see immediate results around us. But who knows if that what we're going through now, and as we trust him with that next right decision, as we trust him and take that step of faith, who knows what impact it's having in some place that we will never, ever see. Taking that step of faith, it's just trusting. It's that direction. I'm trusting that God is doing something. He's working in something, even when I can't see it. And so I have 3 questions I'd just like for us to end with today. The first question is this: what situation in your life right now feels unfair, feels like bad luck, or feels like a setback? In your mind, in your heart, name it. Second question is, what might God be setting up in that situation that you can't see yet? Now, you know what? The answer to this question might be, I don't know. That is okay. The purpose of this question is just to redirect our attention. That what's unfair, what's bad luck, what is a setback, just that trusting, not in what we see, not in what we feel, but trusting that somewhere behind the scenes, God's at work. Come on. Yeah. Some of you know this from experience. If he did it then, he can do it now. The third and last question is, what is one step of faith that you've been putting off? What's one step of faith that you just been hesitant about? That you need to take, and why not now? Book of James says that faith without works is dead. Basically, what that means is that faith without putting it into action doesn't mean anything. You can sit there and say you trust God all day long, but if we don't actually put that into action and live like it, like, what good is that faith? And so I'm believing that there are, in my own life, there are things that I've just been like, dude, this is a huge setback. This does not meet expectation. I don't even know how this plays into the big story. But it's just that feeling of like, I just got to keep trusting God in this. I don't know how this story ends. I don't know how it all connects. I just have to keep trusting that it does. And he's going to bring good out of this. And so we have to put our faith, what we believe, into action. And so what is that thing? What's that one step of faith that maybe you've just been putting off? That maybe you need to take that step and say, God, I'm trusting you in this. I'm believing in you on this. God, I want to thank you for your time here today. God, help us not take it for granted, the fact that your people gathered together for prayer and worship. And God, I'm praying over the room, and I'm praying over people in the space today. That God, if they're going through a season, and it's nothing like Moses, but it feels a lot like Esther. There's enemies. There's silence. Not a lot of movement. And God, it just seems like you're just at a distance. God, I pray that through your Spirit, they would have strength and endurance to keep on trusting you one moment at a time. To keep making that next right decision. To continue walking in the direction that says, I'm believing in God, I'm trusting in God, even when it doesn't make sense. God, give us your eyes so we can see where you're at work. God, give us your ears so we can hear where you're moving. And God, I pray over this church. I pray over these people. That they would continue trusting you, even when it's hard. And they would stay faithful.